Live from ABC7, this is Eyewitness News on LA56.
A woman and her two children are fighting for their lives after nearly drowning in a motel pool in Hollywood. A good Samaritan pulled them out and began CPR.
Did road rage trigger a freeway shooting that left one man hospitalized and another in custody?
Plus, a possible case of Ebola in New York City. Tonight, a new patient is being watched. Good evening, I'm David Ono.
And I'm Colleen Sullivan. Welcome to Eyewitness News on LA56. We begin with breaking news in Garden Grove. This is video just in from Air7 HD. An ambulance has been involved in a crash with a car at the intersection of Beach Boulevard and Garden Grove Boulevard. And you can see that there has been significant damage to both the ambulance and the silver sedan. It's created a very big traffic tie-up at this very large intersection as well as officers investigate the crash. We're told there were significant injuries and as many as 7 people were transported from the scene to area hospitals. Some of those injuries are said to be traumatic. Of course, if we get any new details, we will bring them right to you.
And we have more breaking news. A 16-year-old girl swimming across the Catalina Channel has just made it to Rancho Palos Verdes. Charlotte Samuels of New Jersey finished her 20-mile swim about 15 minutes ago. She's attempting to break a world record to become the youngest swimmer to complete the Triple Crown of open water swimming. She already checked the Manhattan Marathon off her list and plans to cross the English Channel next. There were supporters and media waiting for Samuels as she made her way out of the water and onto the stony shore at Rancho Palos Verdes. And we hope to hear from her later on in this newscast.
A mother and her 2 children rushed to the hospital today in full cardiac arrest. All 3 were pulled from a motel pool in Hollywood. None of them knew how to swim. And we will have more on this story from Alex Michelson right now.
A distraught father comes out of his motel room as police continue to investigate the near drowning of his 2 kids and their mother. Officials say 4 siblings were playing in the 3.5-foot shallow end of this pool, even though they don't know how to swim.
If these 4 kids couldn't swim, what were they doing in the pool?
Unfortunately, I don't have the answer for that. And that happens a lot of times during the summer.
Investigators say an 11-year-old boy and 12-year-old girl drifted into the 7.5-foot deep end of the pool and panicked. Their 36-year-old mother didn't use the rescue hook nearby. Instead, she dove in to save them, even though she doesn't know how to swim either. That's when a good Samaritan walking by jumped in to help.
36-year-old woman was in distress, pulled her out, then went back in and pulled out the other 2 children, began doing CPR on them. He said he just took a CPR class last week for the first time, so it's a great skill to have.
He was standing, there's some food.
The father was ordering Thai food across the street at the time.
Just a slightly south of the sirens, and he was ran off.
Witnesses say after he saw the scene, the father was inconsolable.
It's very sad, special seeing the father. He was just going crazy and shouting and trying to go into the pool.
The father was crying very emotionally and everything, and there was these 2 guys, explaining to them that you need to calm down, God's with you.
There is no evidence of foul play at this time, and like I said, it is early, but right now this looks like a horrible accident.
And because this looks like a horrible accident, the LAPD has just left this scene. That mother, 36-year-old mother, is at Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital. The 2 children at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. At last word, they are all listed in grave condition. Reporting live from Hollywood, Alex Michelson, ABC7. Eyewitness News.
That is just a heartbreaking story, Alex. Thank you for that report. In the meantime, tonight, police are looking into whether a shooting on the 91 freeway in Anaheim was triggered by road rage. 1 man is hospitalized. Another is under arrest. And take a look at this. A live picture from Air7 HD live over the 91 in Fullerton near Weir Canyon Road, where the shooting occurred. As you can see, the 91 eastbound lanes are completely shut down while officers conduct their investigation, searching for any clues, perhaps shell casings. Now, this is where the shooting occurred. The person who was hit, the driver, kept going on the freeway, and that's where we find Orange County Bureau Chief Eileen Frere. She has more details from that part of the scene.
Police say this may have started as a road rage incident on the 91 freeway and the 5 freeway in Fullerton. The suspect was stopped where you see him behind me here on the 91 freeway near the 241. Now, the victim's vehicle sits on the eastbound 91 freeway just 200 yards west of us here, closer to Weir Canyon. The victim's driver's side window shot out. Police believe the victim called 911 after being shot. He kept driving. Now, the CHP caught up to him. The victim suffered a wound to the upper body. His condition is not yet known, but he was able to talk with officers. He's been transported to a hospital. The suspect was pulled over shortly after by CHP and Anaheim police. He is now in custody. His name so far has not been released. Police say they are now searching for the weapon. This is the second freeway shooting on the 91 in less than a month. Today, the DA filed charges against David Cabrera in connection with the murder of a 32-year-old man, a passenger in a truck, in an unrelated case. Again, in this afternoon shooting, the victim injured, shot in the upper body, his condition not yet known. The suspected shooter in custody as well. The motive, according to police, possible road rage. In Anaheim Hills, Eileen Frere, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
A woman and her brother-in-law murdered while sitting on a front porch in Pomona. They were shot and killed late Friday night in the 1000 block of Lexington Avenue. Police say they need help as they search for a suspect and a motive. They say 49-year-old Benny Porter and 59-year-old LaFarrell Alexander were on the porch when someone opened fire. The rest of the family was inside the home, finishing up a birthday party.
Whatever it was, they came to kill, but they stood over the bodies and shot.
They stood over the body?
It was inside, because we found cases on the bodies.
The investigation is still ongoing. The motive is unknown. We're still seeking witnesses or anybody that may have any information related to the case.
The family is now moving, saying they can't understand why anyone would want to kill these two people.
New information in the Pico Rivera shootout with an armed parolee that left an innocent man dead. Investigators are revealing more about the suspect's criminal background. Police say Cedric Ramirez broke into the Mendoza home Friday evening, triggering the tragedy. They say the 24-year-old parolee had been in and out of prison all of his adult life. After a long standoff, deputies killed Ramirez. They say earlier they mistakenly shot Frank Mendoza, thinking he was the suspect.
This incident was beyond tragic, and all of law enforcement grieves with the Mendoza family.
It hurts my heart to see my friend die at the hands of those who are supposed to protect us.
The 54-year-old victim was a husband, father, and grandfather. His wife was held hostage during the standoff, but was not hurt.
Cleanup work is underway in the San Bernardino Mountains after a dangerous storm triggered flash flooding and mudslides over the weekend. Dozens of homes and cars are damaged or destroyed. As Inland Empire Bureau Chief Rob McMillan reports, one person was even killed when his car was swept away in the rushing water.
In the mountain communities affected by the big thunderstorm, this is what we saw all day long today. Wheelbarrows, shovels, heavy equipment, people picking up, people cleaning up. Up in Forest Falls, some people had only minor damage. Others lost almost everything.
Right now I'm at a loss for words because I don't know how to get through this.
This Forest Falls resident was on his honeymoon over the weekend when he and his wife heard about the thunderstorm. They got back here late last night.
My first reaction was to run to the backyard to see my dogs, and that's when it really got bad.
His two dogs both died in the storm when the kennel they were staying in washed away.
A lot of my friends were just as close with my dogs as they were with me, so it's hurting for everyone,
There's also a big mess in Oak Glen.
Amazing, and these giant boulders just took out everything.
And there's more of the same at Mount Baldy. Cars swept away by the powerful mudslides. And this El Segundo man, 48-year-old Ju Juan Lee, was killed when his car was caught up in the swift-moving water.
They say flash flood and you hear about it, stay away. Because I've never seen nothing like it in my life, and you couldn't have ran from it if you were that close to it.
Up here, 6 homes are said to be red tagged. One resident said close to 3 inches of rain fell in a 1-hour period.
It was just pounding rain and thunder and lightning, and it was really dramatic and very fast.
Here in Forest Falls, close to 60 homes are damaged, about a half dozen of them with moderate to major damage. At this point, the road into town can only be used by residents with proper ID. In Forest Falls, Rob McMillan, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Some of these storms were incredible, but luckily things are drying out now. Here's Jonathan Novak.
Yeah, that's right, David, Colleen. Folks, some of the storms yesterday, I saw one that was reported around Mount Baldy that brought almost 4 inches of rain in 2 hours. Thankfully, while we do need rain, we don't need rain like that, and thankfully those storms have moved out of the area, and now that area low pressure that brought all that activity over the weekend is now up to the north of us, and we are dry for now. And I'll talk more about the rain chances, if there are any, a little bit later on in the full forecast. But at least for tomorrow, we'll wake you up. 66 in the morning, 81 by noontime. Very pleasant to get into your Tuesday afternoon. I'll tell you more about the rainfall totals, what it's looking like for the rest of the week, coming up in that full 7-day forecast.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Good news for drivers out in the Westwood area. After nearly a week of big delays and headaches, traffic on Sunset Boulevard is back to normal by UCLA. The reopening comes 6 days after a water main break sent 20 million gallons of water gushing into the streets. Crews worked around the clock to fix the 36-inch pipes and repair the roads. Last night, workers filled the hole, laid down the last 2 inches of pavement, and striped the road.
New worries over the Ebola virus here in the United States. A patient at a New York City hospital is being tested for the deadly illness, but officials say it's likely he doesn't have it. Meanwhile, as ABC's Marcy Gonzalez reports, there is encouraging news about the 2 Americans who contracted the virus while working in West Africa.
A second American Ebola patient heading home to the U.S. Nancy Reifel getting on this medical evacuation plane in Liberia, traveling to Emory University Hospital in Atlanta for treatment.
We're still fighting, still weak, but able to sit up and receive treatment and even eat a little bit and take in fluid.
Today, we're learning more about an experimental drug that she and her colleague, Dr. Kent Brantley, were reportedly given in Liberia. It was manufactured by a biopharmaceutical company in San Diego, never tested on humans, but in a desperate effort to save their lives, sources tell us they took it and it worked within minutes, leading to a dramatic improvement in Brantley's health, leaving him strong enough to walk out of this ambulance and into the hospital this weekend.
The hearing that he recovered and he's doing better is terrific news.
But experts stress there is no proven cure for Ebola. Doctors deciding both Americans have a better chance at survival if their symptoms are treated here in the U.S. rather than West Africa, where the outbreak is still surging out of control. Experts saying they're confident, though, the disease will not spread here.
They know what they're doing. It's safe. People should be at ease about it.
And now Reifel is expected here by tomorrow afternoon. Like Brantley, she will be treated in a specially isolated room away from other patients. Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News, Atlanta.
A 72-hour truce between Israel and Hamas is set to begin in just a couple hours. Each has accepted an Egyptian ceasefire proposal aimed at ending a month of bloodshed. Over the next 3 days, Egypt will host indirect talks in hopes of working out a long-term truce. Several previous ceasefires have already collapsed. Earlier today, 2 Israeli missiles struck a beach outside near Gaza City, killing an 8-year-old girl. And a man on a tractor plowed into a bus in Israel, killing a pedestrian. Israeli police called it a terrorist attack.
The man who became the face of the gun control movement in the 1980s has died. Former White House Press Secretary James Brady was shot in the head during the 1981 assassination attempt on President Ronald Reagan. He suffered a devastating head wound, but later began a personal crusade for gun control, resulting in a federal law requiring background checks on handgun buyers. The 73-year-old had been battling serious health issues for a while.
Up next, terrifying moments caught on camera off the coast of Bangladesh. We're going to show you the dramatic video of an overloaded passenger ferry capsizing.
Plus, survivors are being pulled from the rubble of homes shattered by a weekend earthquake in southern China.
And a cheerleader who generated controversy for her big game hunting photos, making her first public appearance since the scandal. We're going to show you the response.
The big screen's biggest money-making actress. I'm George Pinocchio. That's in tonight's Hollywood Wrap. Plus, 3 very happy TV stars. And Sharknado 2 isn't done just yet. Where it's headed next, coming up.
An overloaded passenger ferry carrying hundreds of people capsized in central Bangladesh. At least 2 people are confirmed dead, but the toll could climb much higher. Dozens of passengers survived by jumping overboard and swimming to shore. It's not clear how many people were on board. Scores of people die in ferry accidents every year in Bangladesh. Poor safety standards and overcrowding are blamed for the many of these accidents. And rescuers are finding survivors buried in the rubble in southern China following yesterday's 6.1 magnitude earthquake that killed about 400 people. More than 1,800 others have been injured in the quake. Some 12,000 homes collapsed when the quake hit the impoverished area. Rainstorms are hampering rescue efforts. Rescue workers are trying to bring water, food, and other relief supplies to survivors.
A 19-year-old Texas Tech cheerleader who generated controversy for her big game hunting photos made her first public appearance since those photos surfaced over a month ago. This time, Kendall Jones showed off a different side of her to fans at a Texas Trophy Hunters Association event in Houston. She held babies and signed autographs at the show. Kendall is not talking to the media, but her father spoke about the frenzy generated by his daughter's photos.
It's been good and bad for her. She's had a lot of negative. She's had death threats, a lot of negative publicity, but with that she's gained a ton of supporters, as you can see here at this show.
Kendall Jones says when she went game hunting in Africa, the kills were permitted and the meat was donated to local villages.
All right, let's go back to talking about a weather crazy day yesterday and last night. Some serious storms, but today's so different.
It's such a nice break, especially for some areas like Mount Baldy, where we saw 4.4 inches recorded and by one of the rain gauges out there, 4 inches in 1 hour yesterday. That's incredible. The storms, the tropical moisture that we got, coming from the south. Thankfully, we've got a bit of a break, and it looks like for the rest of the week, DRY instead of WET, folks, all right? So it's looking good. But temperatures, let's focus on that. We've got some changes in the weather ahead for those temps in the marine layer. This was today, just a few clouds by Big Bear where you saw some rain as well. We look at the rainfall totals from last night. And while these are on the low end, it's still pretty significant. San Bernardino, an inch, 1.37. Lake Arrowhead, about 8.85 in Angeles Oaks. So it was a wet one yesterday for a lot of us. We need the rain, but we don't need flash flooding like we saw yesterday. In fact, while we got a little bit of help, we didn't get enough. We're still in that drought. This was just released by the U.S. Drought Monitor, and this shows you that from July 2012 to July 2013. Not a huge change in that drought situation, but from last week, where we were in an exceptional drought in some of the state, almost the entire state now in an exceptional drought, as we look at that deep red color covering most of California. So we still need a lot of help with that rainfall, which is now well to the north, up in portions of northern California, the High Sierra, and Nevada getting flash flooding now. They're seeing that area low pressure move through their area, unfortunately. So we're going to look at now the current conditions, and it looks beautiful. LAX, clear skies, temperatures in the upper 60s, 67 degrees, and light winds out of the west. And this is going to be the pattern for the next couple of days. Below average temperatures. Right now it's 71 at Long Beach, lucky 7s in Fullerton, and 94. Somewhat cool, actually, in Palm Springs, 78 Temecula. So here's that area low pressure up to the north, that tropical system that's moving off to the east, or I should say a system that brought tropical moisture. It's going to move off to the east, and we have a little trough of low pressure now building off in the Pacific. That will bring that onshore flow. That means that marine layer is back in place. Temperatures are going to be cooler than average, and it's going to be overall pretty pleasant. Rain chances out of the 7-day, which is good. Get a break from that storm activity we saw this weekend. So tonight, clearing. Then cooler, and then ocean clouds later on. Beaches around 65 degrees. Highs tomorrow looking good. 80 in Inglewood, 84 in Los Angeles, 84 in Long Beach as well. The IE seeing temps below average, 93 Riverside, 94 in Beaumont. And that 70 forecast, LA Metro, Orange County. 82 by Wednesday, a little bit of beach fog for a few days here. We head into the weekend. We do warm back up with high pressure building back in, but nothing too extreme. And you notice no storms in the forecast. Valleys, IE, we're down into the lower 80s by Wednesday. That's real cool. 82, 90 by Saturday. We're warming back up for the weekend. It's going to be beautiful. And then the mountains, man, looking really good, actually. Nice break for you. 74 tomorrow, 76 on Wednesday, 80 Friday and Saturday. Sunshine all around except next Monday. Maybe a little bit of tropical moisture coming back, but until then, looking good. The high desert up to 100 by Sunday. Until then, just breezy and warm and dry. We'll have another weather coming up in a few minutes. Back to you guys at the desk.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. In tonight's Hollywood Wrap, Sharknado getting even bigger.
Plus big paychecks, both on the big and the small screens. And here's George Finocchio with all the details.
And somebody nice tops this list. Gravity star Sandra Bullock's career has so much weight. She's the top earning actress in Hollywood. Forbes magazine just came out with its list of the top screens, or big screens, top dollar stars. Thanks to her Oscar-nominated work in the hit film Gravity, Sandra Bullock pulled in more money than any other woman from the summer of 2013 through June of this year. Forbes estimates Bullock earned about, $51 million. She hasn't been in a movie since Gravity, but she is voicing a character in the animated film The Minions. That we'll see next year. 23-year-old Jennifer Lawrence is second on the Forbes list. She earned about $34 million thanks to the Hunger Games and X-Men franchises. Another Jennifer, Aniston, was third on this year's list with $31 million. Fourth place star Gwyneth Paltrow's $19 million comes from both Iron Man 3 and her endorsement deals. Angelina Jolie and Cameron Diaz round out the top 6 in a tie with $18 million each. One interesting note from Forbes, in total, the top 10 female stars earned less than half of their male counterparts. In other money news, the contract drama involving the stars of a hit sitcom has ended with a bang. The Big Bang Theory stars Jim Parsons, Johnny Galecki, and Kaylee Cuoco had been negotiating with Warner Brothers. However, production for the season was delayed due to those talks. The Hollywood Reporter now says the trio has inked rich, new 3-year deals. Sources told the trade paper that the actors will likely see a salary bump from $325,000 an episode to close to $1 million an episode. Finally, watch out for flying sharks on the big screen, but for one night only. After busting cable records on the Sci-Fi Channel, Sharknado 2, the second one, will whirl its way into theaters on Thursday, August 21st. The movie about a tornado full of sharks that spin into New York City will play in more than 400 theaters, including several around the Southland. So in case you missed it on TV or need to see it on the big screen,
oh,
it's
that'll
coming.
be fun, though.
Yeah.
Those clips alone have sold me. I've got to check it out, George. Thanks. Up next, it's no science fiction video. You're looking at a real-life cyborg who relies on an antenna. The amazing story when we come back.
Plus, a neighborhood dispute of an unusual kind, an expansion at a cemetery in Lomita, is bringing the personal lives of mourners up close and personal with people living in the area. Tech you wear is one thing. What about technology that is actually a part of you? We're basically talking about cyborgs, and they're real and walking among us. Take Neil Harbison, for instance. He's a musician who's colorblind, so he had an antenna surgically implanted in his head that allows him to hear color. That's right, hear it by converting color frequencies to sound frequencies.
I didn't want to wear technology. I wanted this to be an integral part of me, so that's how I kept developing it until I found a doctor that actually drilled my head and made it implanted.
How did you find a doctor who agreed to put that in your head?
That was very complex because there's bioethical committees that don't really agree with the union between humans and technologies.
Neil considers himself a cyborg. So does his girlfriend Moon, who got an antenna implanted that vibrates anytime there's an earthquake. Then there's this guy who sells implantable chips like the one in his hand, which allows him to open his car, his front door, and his safe.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
All of those just kind of blow my mind. Can't believe it. All right, up next at 8:30, a decision today on whether the man responsible for Orange County's deadliest killing spree ever can get the death penalty.
Plus, how'd you like to see this outside your home? The battle over big changes at a local cemetery. And this story.
P.F. Chang says customers at several of its Southern California restaurants may have been affected by a credit card security breach. I'll have the story coming up.
Live from ABC7, this is Eyewitness News on LA56.
Updating our top stories, a woman and her 2 children are fighting for their lives after nearly drowning in a motel pool in Hollywood. The children apparently drifted into the deep end but could not swim. The mother jumped in to save them, but she didn't know how to swim either. A Good Samaritan pulled them from the water and performed CPR, but all 3 went to the hospital in full cardiac arrest.
And tonight, police have shut down the 91 freeway in Fullerton, searching for evidence in a possible road rage shooting that took place this afternoon. This is a live picture from ABC7. Eastbound lanes, they are still closed as officers look for the shell casings. And look at the backup here. It goes for miles. It is a tough commute, eastbound 91 freeway, but we are hoping, though, that this freeway is opened up soon. It's been shut down for about a half an hour now. One man was injured in that shooting. He was transported to a hospital. His name has not been released. Another man was arrested a short distance from the victim's vehicle. His name has not yet been released.
A plane carrying the second American Ebola patient is on its way from Liberia to Atlanta, Georgia. Aid worker Nancy Wrightbowl is apparently improving, as is Dr. Kent Brantley, who's already at Atlanta's Emory University Hospital. Both received an experimental drug that has never been tried on humans. Good evening. I'm Colleen Sullivan.
I'm David Ona. Welcome back to ABC7 Eyewitness News and LA56. In our top story at 8:30, it is a neighborhood battle over burials. The residents at Rancho Palos Verdes have been living near the cemetery for years, but recently the cemetery started burying people on the top of a mausoleum right in the view of local residents. Eyewitness News reporter Rudabeh Shabazi spoke with those residents and officials at the cemetery about what's changed.
When Matt Geyer bought his condo in 2006, he was looking forward to a quiet area with ocean views. Now this is what he sees on the weekends.
It's a little disturbing, to say the least. I've been out here before, and I've just been out here watering the plants and such, and they're in the middle of their funerals, and they'll look up and they'll see me and they'll motion for me to go inside.
The Green Hills Memorial Park recently built this above-ground mausoleum where they have burials just feet from the pool.
When you're in the pool, you could probably do a cannonball and splash the people up there.
Geyer, who's president of the HOA, and his neighbors are furious.
Our problem isn't with the mourners. They've obviously lost a family member or a friend. You know, that's a terrible thing. We just can't believe that they would decide to build something with rooftop internments right next to a residential zone. In fact, there's a PV municipal code that says they have to be 40 feet away from a residential zone.
In all honesty, I never envisioned the level of negative response from these neighbors. I stand up there and think it looks beautiful.
The president and CEO of the Memorial Park says he's done everything above board with the blessing of the city, and he can't understand why neighbors are so offended. He says he's taken steps to mitigate the noise, limited funeral hours, and even put up screens, but that neighbors aren't willing to work with him and come up with a solution.
Their demand to make me stop doing funerals altogether in a cemetery, or to move a building that was constructed with full approval of the city that we are governed by, that's not a possibility.
Neighbors are going to the city, saying they want the people buried there to be moved and the height of the mausoleum to be limited. End of story. They say their views are gone and their property values are plummeting.
One day we could be down there enjoying the pool with some music and a barbecue, and they're trying to have a funeral up there. What would they, what would the family members think?
Rudabeh Shabazi, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Prison sentences for 2 of the men whose illegal campfire set off the massive Colby fire near Glendora in January. Clifford Henry was sentenced to 6 months and Stephen Aguirre to 5 months in federal prison. The men were convicted in May of building an illegal campfire on federal land, the Angeles National Forest. The fire that resulted destroyed 5 homes, damaged 17 others, and burned nearly 2,000 acres. The owner of one home damaged by the fire clearly felt the sentences were too light, calling them, quote, a travesty, a disgrace. A third man, Jonathan Jarrell, will be sentenced next week.
It's the biggest mass killing case in Orange County's history. Today, a judge ruled Scott DeCry, the man who opened fire in a Seal Beach salon, is eligible for the death penalty. Eyewitness News reporter Eileen Frere was inside the courtroom with the victims' families, heard the decision.
A judge ruled whatever Scott DeCry said to a jailhouse informant cannot be used during the penalty phase of his trial. The ruling comes several months after his attorney filed a motion alleging government misconduct. The judge found DeCry's rights were violated when an informant, Fernando Perez, questioned him after DeCry already had an attorney after his arrest in the largest mass killing in Orange County history.
The judge said that many of the witnesses who testified, including current and former prosecutors and law enforcement, were, quote, credibility challenged.
He said some perhaps suffered from a failure of recollection. Others undoubtedly lied. The judge did not name names.
It's very clear to me that not a single person in my office was lying on the stand.
However, the DA admitted they failed to do the proper background investigation on Perez and says prosecutors have since undergone training on proper discovery of evidence. The judge said the prosecutors' excuses, such as misunderstanding the law or heavy caseloads, was unacceptable for not turning over evidence to the defense.
Well, it's definitely going to affect other cases. I mean, the court has talked about a lot of misconduct taking place. He identified it with a number of officers, with prosecutors.
DeCry pleaded guilty last May to killing 8 people and trying to kill a 9th in a Seal Beach hair salon in 2011. The judge said the district attorney's well-documented failures in this case, although disappointing, even disheartening to any interested member of this community, were negligent rather than malicious. The judge ruled the DA can remain on the case. The death penalty will also remain an option, drawing mixed reaction from victims' families.
I'm glad that he's eligible for the death penalty.
The judge ruled for all of our families to have 2 decades of appeals.
DeCry will be back in court next month. In Santa Ana, Eileen Frere, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
An Alabama law restricting abortion doctors has been ruled unconstitutional. A federal judge said today state lawmakers exceeded their authority when they passed a law requiring doctors at abortion clinics to have hospital admitting privileges. Supporters said it would make abortion clinics safer. Clinic operators say the law would force a shutdown of all but 2 of Alabama's abortion clinics. And in Texas, a trial got underway today over a new law requiring all abortion clinics to meet the same standards as ambulatory surgical centers. Protesters on both sides of the issue were outside the courthouse today. Abortion providers say the law will force 18 abortion clinics to close when it goes into effect at the end of the month. Most affected would be women along the Texas-Mexico border, where women would be forced to drive.
Another national chain hit by a major data breach. This time, P.F. Chang's is doing the one, lots of damage control, warning customers to be on the lookout for fraudulent charges on their credit and debit cards. Eyewitness News reporter Amy Powell has details.
This Sherman Oaks restaurant is one of 5 P.F. Chang's in Southern California affected by a credit and debit card security breach. The chain says hackers may have stolen card numbers and possibly names and expiration dates of customers' credit and debit cards between late October of 2013 to June 11th of this year. Alex Davis, who works in the food industry, says he was a victim.
Financially, it was definitely a big impact because it takes the bank some time. You have to dispute the charges, and then as a server, you know, we're not very financially stable most of the time, so we rely on our money every day.
P.F. Chang's officials say the company initiated an internal investigation and determined that security was compromised at 33 of its more than 200 restaurants across the country. It's the latest in a string of data breaches. Millions of Target customers were affected by the theft of credit card and debit card information. Shoppers say they're on the lookout for problems.
So I check them all the time online. That's all I do, you know.
But you're not going to stop using your credit or debit card.
We're so used to it. It's so handy.
P.F. Chang issued a statement saying, "We regret any inconvenience this has caused our guests and appreciate your patience throughout the investigation. We are committed to providing support and resources, including complimentary identity protection services for all guests that may potentially be affected by the security compromise." P.F. Chang says credit and debit cards have been processed securely since early June, but anyone who dined at the affected locations during the time of the breach should check their financial records. In Sherman Oaks, Amy Powell, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
And still ahead, how you can get much healthier with just 6 seconds of exercise. Plus this.
Lung cancer in people under 40 who've never smoked? I'm health specialist Denise Dodor. What causes it and what are the signs? The story coming up on Eyewitness News.
After a stormy weekend, it was a nice start to the work week, but it stay that way. Details on any rain chances coming up next. 24 forecast.
Lung cancer is the #1 cancer killer in America. We know smoking is responsible for most of the cases, but it's happening more and more in young people who have never smoked. As health specialist Denise Dodor reports, it's often misdiagnosed and found very late.
At age 28, Emily Taylor had a persistent wheeze and cough. Her doctor told her it was asthma, but Emily wasn't so sure, so she requested a lung scan.
And when we did, we saw that there was some sort of a haziness in the right upper lobe of my right lung.
A CT scan confirmed the shocking news.
I was a healthy, non-smoker athlete. I was an athlete in college and in high school, and so I, obviously was not in part of the group of people that you think would get lung cancer.
And it was stage 4. Like Emily, many of the 7,000 young adults with lung cancer each year are often misdiagnosed first, told they have bronchitis or pneumonia.
That's the sad part, and many of these young people present at such late stages because no one's really thinking about the possible diagnosis of lung cancer.
USC researcher Dr. Barbara Gitlitz is working with the Bonnie J. Adario Lung Cancer Foundation to get to the cellular level of what causes young lung cancer.
Certainly we have to uncover the reason why they might be getting lung cancer, because they don't have the usual risk factors, they don't have the age, etc.
We believe that this young lung cancer is a different subset of lung cancer. And really just in the last couple of years we've realized that lung cancer has many subsets. It's many different diseases.
Researchers are looking for young lung cancer patients from around the world, but you don't have to travel to USC or any of the other study sites to participate. You can sign up from home right from this website.
Who are candidates would be people that were diagnosed with any stage of lung cancer, but primary lung cancer, less than age 40.
After chemo, doctors were able to remove Emily's right lung. She attended the International Lung Cancer Congress to let people know that anyone with lungs can get lung cancer.
It could be someone like me who's 28 years old, who's healthy, with the rest of their life ahead of them. They could be the person that gets lung cancer.
In Huntington Beach, Denise Dodor, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
The goal of the trial is to map and study the genes behind the disease. Researchers are looking for anyone who's had lung cancer under the age of 40. To enroll in the study, log on to our website, ABC7.com.
All right, listen to this. It only takes 6 seconds. A new study shows even the tiniest amount of exercise can make a big difference. Scottish researchers asked retirees to do 6-second sprints on an exercise bike with a minute of rest in between. The participants eventually built up to doing a total of 10 6-second cycles. Experts found that after 6 weeks, the seniors' blood pressure had dropped a significant 9%. And they also experienced quicker heart rate recovery.
Now that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, the sprints always
like little
help.
intervals.
Yes, exactly. All right, well, could we see more thunder and lightning in the week ahead? Meteorologist Jonathan Novak has his complete forecast up next.
And does your smartphone battery seem to die just when you need it the most? Tips on keeping it charged up when Eyewitness News returns. Updating breaking news, we first brought you at 8 o'clock. A 16-year-old New Jersey girl just made it to shore at the top of the hour in Rancho Palos Verdes after swimming more than 20 miles across the Catalina Channel. Charlotte Samuel supporters were waiting for her when she made it to the rocky shore. She's attempting to break a world record to become the youngest swimmer to complete what's known as the Triple Crown of open water swimming. She's already swum the Manhattan Marathon. Next, she plans to cross the English Channel.
You would think when she arrives there's going to be a nice sandy beach with all those
Poor
rocks.
thing, she had to traverse those rocks. Difficult.
Good job for her. Well, we are dry. Let's go over to meteorologist Jonathan Novak and talk about, boy, we did have some wild weather yesterday.
Yeah, well, I'm exhausted just watching that. watching her finish. That tired me out. We were busy over the weekend following all the rain and the heavy rain and the storms that moved through Southern California. But yes, looking at that live Mega Doppler 7000 HD all to the north now. And we are looking at a beautiful evening. This was earlier today. Hey, Laguna Beach, people enjoying the sunshine coming back. A little bit of marine layer there, but things were mostly clear for most of the day. We're going to bring the clouds back tonight, overnight, but no rain expected in the near term. 87 was our high today in downtown. Normally we're at 84, so a little bit above average. Right now, 71 Long Beach. It is clear, but again, clouds rolling back in the forecast. Due to some low pressure off in the Pacific we'll look at momentarily. 81 in Ontario, 79 in Palmdale. These are below average, below where we normally would be this time of night. And temperatures will be below average as we go into the next couple of days. Hey, let's head out way out in the Pacific. Hurricane Iselle, 135-mile-an-hour winds, a Category 4 heading toward Hawaii. But by the time it reaches Hawaii, it'll be entering some cooler ocean waters. That's going to mean that the storm will weaken, thankfully, into a depression. Now, that will actually affect our weather over the next few days. We're going to see that swell from Hurricane Iselle increase the chance of rip currents at the coast. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, it looks very nice. That area low pressure way to the north. We have a trough low pressure building off to the west, and that's going to mean an onshore flow, and that's going to mean temperatures are going to be cooling down. We do have the marine layer in place, but no rain in the forecast. Dry, very nice afternoons ahead. Check it out. Lows tonight in the 60s, 66 Los Angeles, 65 Palmdale, and 59 Thousand Oaks. Nice and cool for you to start things off tomorrow. Thousand Oaks, 79 for a high. Tomorrow, 80 Fraser Park. Temperatures below average. At or below average, because 84 in Los Angeles is right there where you should be. 93 in Riverside and 88 Mission Viejo. Let's put up that 7-day and see what's happening the rest of the week. We dip down even more on Wednesday. A little bit of morning fog. Get that out of the way at the coast, and then 82 for a high. We warm it up toward the weekend. 86 and then 87 Saturday and Sunday. Very nice ahead for the weekend. Valleys, IE, down to 82. That is relatively cool. 90, though, by Saturday, 92 on Sunday. No extreme heat. A little bit of moisture back in play in the mountains by Monday. Until then, don't worry about any storms. Just beautiful weather, 70s and mostly sunny skies. The high desert, beautiful as well. Just a bit breezy over the next few days. Dallas has more on the forecast on ABC7 at 11.
Jonathan, thank you. College football season kicks off a little more than 3 weeks from now, and a lot of is expected from the UCLA Bruins this season. Jim Mora's group is ranked 7th in the coaches' preseason poll, and today at Cal State San Bernardino, the Bruins started the training camp. It's the 3rd straight year the UCLA Bruins has held camp at the Inland Empire campus. The team knows a march towards being one of the 4 teams selected to the first ever college football playoffs begins here with a lot of hard work on and off the field.
What I've asked them to do is, you know, we see our young people so often, heck, all of us now, the minute we have a free moment, what do? We freaking go right to our, you know, we isolate ourselves in our own little world. And so we don't take their phones away, we don't take their computers away, but we ask them to put them away and spend time, like, actually, like, talking. Yeah, it's this really cool concept that a lot of kids don't understand, talking.
And UFC light heavyweight champ John Jones and challenger Daniel Cormier can't wait for the September 27th title fight. Today, at a media event in Las Vegas, Cormier took exception to Jones getting in his face and pushing the champ. Jones takes a big swing in retaliation, then both topple to the floor before finally being separated.
Okay, well, nearly half of vacationers say dead phone batteries are a problem, according to a Consumer Reports survey. For those times when you can't plug in, consumer specialist Rick Romero shows you some smart new ways to keep your phone alive.
Phone batteries always seem to run out when you need them.
I'd like something that would last a little longer.
After an hour, it ends up dying.
To the rescue, smartphone cases with a built-in battery. Consumer Reports tested 4 made for popular phones.
The cases promise to protect your phone and add extra battery life, and they all do that.
For the iPhone 5 or 5S, testers found the $180 Mophie Space Pack almost doubled battery life. It also adds extra memory. And for Samsung's Galaxy S4, the $70 UNU Unity case also nearly doubled the phone's battery life.
It is a little awkward to set up, but you never have to do it again. That doubled battery life is there forever.
If you can't find a case that fits your phone, this Samsung Galaxy portable battery pack can charge any phone that uses a USB cable, as long as you remember to power up the pack ahead of time. It costs $100. And if you can't get to an outlet or don't have electricity, Consumer Reports also tested some gadgets that actually generate power, like this solar panel with a USB port. unfolded in the sun to restore power to your phone. It's the Goal Zero Nomad 7 for $80. Also $80, Goal Zero's Lighthouse 250 lantern. Besides being a lantern and an emergency light, it has a large internal battery to charge your phone. When that battery is spent, you can use the hand crank to power up your phone. Now here are some other tips for conserving battery life when you're far from power. First, try lowering your phone's screen brightness and turn off auto updates. Use the GPS sparingly, and when there's no signal, put your phone in airplane mode. That stops it from trying to connect and turns off Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and mobile connections. This is Rick Romero, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
And more news straight ahead here at 8 o'clock and ahead tonight on Eyewitness News at 11 on KABC. Police continue to search for clues tonight in the shooting on the 91 freeway in Anaheim Hills. We'll have the latest on the investigation. Plus, we'll hear what from one of the stars of Mistresses and what she says about the Sexy Summer series and why she thinks it's so relatable to women. These stories and all the late-breaking news on Southern California's #1 late newscast, Eyewitness News at 11 on KABC.
An ambitious project for the LA County Public Works Department. It is replacing more than 2,800 street lights with LED lights, and they're cooler burning and save energy, and right now they're being installed in the Florence, Firestone, and Walnut Park areas. The project will cost more than $1 million, but it is expected to pay off in energy savings.
And thank you so much for joining us for Eyewitness News at 8 here on LA56. Law and Order SVU is next.
Have a good night.